Okay, so this is the Node.js LTS working group meeting for February 22nd, 2016. And in attendance so far is Michael Dawson, Miles Horan, and Kat
Marchand?
Marchand, yeah.
Marchand, yeah.
Um, so we're going to have a light meeting. There's not a huge number of issues on the issue tracker either, but we do have a few things, so we'll go through those. So normally we just start out with a roundtable of what we're up to. I don't know, Kat, do you want to start? You're on the furthest left.
I don't know what there is to be up about. I mean, I'm continuing to do the 2x releases. I guess there's nothing really that's come up that will affect the LTS version. I know that we have some GraceLFS stuff going on, so like as of the latest version of the LTS, if someone leaves npm at the current version and upgrades Node, they can do that. But with previous versions of LTS, if they keep npm, I think like 2.14.18,
Right.
and then they upgrade Node and don't upgrade npm with that, npm will stop working because of the process.bindings fixes.
Okay, so as of the latest, so it's that previously you would have to upgrade npm if you were upgrading Node, but as of this release, you could upgrade Node without having to upgrade npm. Is that?
Oh no! If you installed, what's going on is that there is a new version of Node coming out that gets rid of process.bindings entirely.
Right. Okay.
And the previous version of GraceLFS, which is one of our dependencies, was needed by that. It's a small corner case. Basically, if people installed npm separately and they upgrade Node alone to Node 6,
okay,
and they don't upgrade npm, well, this is the first release. Well, they'll be able to do that. They'll keep being able to use the 2x LTS.
Okay.
But any previous version will break on Node 6.
Okay.
If I understand those process.bindings changes, I think there's been some thrashing on that. I don't know.
For what it's worth, I don't think the process bindings changes are being backported. I can double check, but that shouldn't affect the 2.x line of npm.
Oh, right. I mean, you just can't install 2.x in you can't install 2.x in Node 6.
Yeah.
Before like 2.14.20 or something.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Which is semi-relevant, you know.
Right. I guess just sort of as an aside, should MDM now be working in master?
We have I just actually downstreamed the 3x branch is the version that is working on master, and the 3.7.3 that I just pushed up should pass on master with the new GraceLFS.
Okay, I have the test suite running locally right now and Sitgim running in CI. So in the next couple minutes, I should be able to comment on that.
Okay.
So it passed for me, like the master build passed for me with all our tests. So hopefully that works too.
Okay, I'm just gonna. That's good. You don't have anything else to add, I guess, Miles?
Yeah, so I've been continuing to work on the release candidate for 4.4. We released a 4.4 release candidate last week. I think the idea is for about a 2-week incubation on it. So probably 2 weeks from this Tuesday is when I guess that it would be released. There were a handful of doc fixes that needed to come in for a bunch of other stuff to get in. We just finished going through those right before the meeting, and I think we're down to 35 pull requests that still need to get like reviewed and merged, and at least a third of those, just haven't been incubating on 5 long enough to get backported. So most of the backlog that was created by the security fixes has now been gone through, which is great. I'm going to be doing a new RC this afternoon that will have all those fixes in it.
Okay. So is that the last set that we think that we'll get in, or will there still be more things coming in?
I am hoping 5.7 is coming out tonight
Okay.
or tomorrow, and there are one or two other minors that are flagged as being appropriate for LTS. So I'd like to, if they sit there for a week, and I think there was one from Trevor that was like pretty minor as far as like, you know, what had actually changed and what the potential breakages were. So I'd like to try to get as many of the stuff, as many commits as we can get in on this release as possible. And then the hope is, you know, I've been reaching out to Bryce Barrel from NodeSource and just kind of out in general to other people I know who are using LTS to see if they can be, you know, stress testing these RCs before we release them so that we can make sure that it's stable.
Okay,
there is one more thing. So NPM was having some issues on CI, on Windows CI, because of tooling issues with long paths, and the latest, the version of NPM getting downstream this week on Friday. The LTS for this Friday should fix that, or will be another attempt. There's probably going to be a more involved thing to make sure it doesn't happen again, but it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, also speaking to that, we made some changes to our build CI to shorten the paths, and that allowed the last, like the RC right now is running off of 2.18, or 2.14.18, and the next RC should be on 1.9, which is, Kat, I believe, put that up on Friday. So we are no longer blocked by the path issues on our own build machines, but it is, you know, like a greater community thing that we need to figure out how to solve.
Thank you. That's pretty cool.
Okay, myself, I just, not a lot LTS specific, but I did sniff test the PPCLE binaries from the 4.4 release candidate on one of our PPCLE machines. I also see that Johan said he did some testing as well on some of the community machines, so that's good. And Jeremiah, who's joined us, has filled in that he doesn't have anything specifically LTS related. Do you have anything else to add, Jeremiah?
Not really. The only thing I would ask to be looked at, I'm not sure if my timers refactor will be able to make it into LTS or not. I think it should be able to, but I'm not really sure what we want to do about that.
Timers refactor. You have a number for that?
Yeah, I'll paste it in. It's issue 4007 on the Node repo.
That one's been having quite extensive review, if I recall correctly, right?
Sort of, yes.
Okay, so I guess if that's the roundtable, let's move into the agenda. So we'll add that into one of the agenda items. So I think the first thing on the agenda was the one I added this afternoon, just talking a bit about RC awareness, and I guess also how people can test it. Maybe just be my ignorance, but when I went to test it, I found that the headers didn't download properly. So I'm wondering how we get people to really thoroughly test it if that piece isn't working.
Do you have a link to an RC in the in our dist system on the website? Because I think it should build everything for them.
So the link, yeah, it was the link that Miles had sent me. And I think it was looking for the more public version of the headers as opposed to the RC directory.
So it would have likely been, I'm just pasting it in here, this 4.4 RC1.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah, you may know this better than I. I believe that there was something that landed in either V5 or master that solved some of these header problems. Maybe that was not backported, but I also may just be making this up.
Well, the headers files are here.
Right, I think what happened is it didn't necessarily look there for it.
This is for Node GIP, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I basically said, I installed a heap dump, which I know has a native compile.
Okay. And I think LTS NPM has like an updated version of Node GIP, right?
Yep. No GIF with the new graceful fest, yes.
Lib.
Oh, LTS does. Hold on, let me.
The current version is like 3.3.0, but like anything over like version 3 should work to some degree.
Let's see. Yeah, 2.14.20 has 3.3.0, and I don't see an upgrade before that.
So there's tests in Node GIP for trying RCs.
14.20 is going up this Friday.
The RC has version 3.2.1 in it that I'm going to cut today. And then RC1 also had 3.2.1 for Node GIP.
Okay.
Okay, you might need to ask. So who found this an issue?
I basically, when I was sniff testing the PPCLE one, I basically grabbed the VN, extracted it, and then tried to install the Node module. It tried to, it said there's no headers for that. So I then used the command line option to say, use the headers from 3.2.1, and it installed and ran fine.
Interesting.
So I could see, like, do we think that when it builds, it should know that it's an RC candidate and look for the headers in that download RC versus v4.4.0?
Oh, I think I see what you're saying.
Because I think that's what the problem was.
How does this test work? Process release. I think you might need to specify that it's an RC for Node GIP to work.
And when you say specify that, specify it where?
Because I don't think it has any way of telling whether a node version's, like which RC it would be. Yeah.
So the one thing that we could potentially do, and maybe this is just something we have to send, upstream to Node.js, but the RCs are being cut with like the node version including RC.1 in them, which would resolve directly to the path where those headers are.
Oh, it should work then. I need to look through the code here again and see if it actually has a case for it.
I'm just going to try installing Chokidar right now, which I know also has a, and see. I just successfully, what was the module you tried to install, Michael?
Heap dump?
Is there a hyphen or anything in there?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I got a 404. Oh, I see why, I think. Maybe not.
If you look at the path, I think the path is to the regular, the regular directory where 4.4 will go eventually.
Yeah, here's the error. I'm going to post it into the chat. It's looking for nodejs.org/dist, not /download, because the RCs don't end up in dist.
Right.
Okay,
So
well, I posted a link to like the file that actually handles this in Node GIP, and we could probably just patch it into Node GIP.
Yeah.
I thought that already existed, but I must have been mistaken or something.
So do we need to open like a specific issue that says this needs something to be fixed? Is that?
Well, I mean, I could probably play this afternoon and fix that pretty quickly and just write a test or something.
Okay, so I'll just leave it as in the notes system, and we'll work to resolve. How about that? Okay, in terms of then the awareness side of things. My question was around how do people know that they're there, and because I don't think there's like any direct links off the website or anything like that, and if we're hoping people test them, or I guess it's more, maybe it's only a smaller subset of people, but just my question was around who do we expect or hope to be able to get at it, and is there enough info to let them do that? So I guess from your guys' perspective, who are we hoping are actually using the RC candidate?
I'm hoping our test suites just cover enough.
I think like the biggest thing for me that would work for this would be, like Bryce Barrel, I think, is a really great example. When we did one of the 4.2 releases, there was like a really, really subtle change that broke stuff in, like in instrumentation that was working over at NodeSource. What we could potentially do is just like a call out to organizations. Maybe this is through the blog, or maybe this is through like marketing materials. But I think anyone who is running off of LTS, who has it in production and has their own test suites for their own stuff, should essentially be like helping us smoke test this, because their stability is a really big importance to this.
Right. It's almost like if we had an LTS users email or something.
Yeah, so that was what I was suggesting earlier in the thread, that we could maybe even just make like a mailing list for people who are users, and then Michael was suggesting that we could also just have like a GitHub issue that people could watch. Perhaps what we need to do is a wayfinding and figure out who the individuals are that should be doing these tests with us, and then when we have those individuals, we can kind of pull them and see what would be best for them. Kat, for example, NPM, I would imagine you may want to run, the 2.x test suite against our RCs to make sure we're not doing anything weird. How would you prefer to be notified that we have new RCs coming up?
I don't know. I mean, you can just message me. Because it would be nice to better be able to keep track of those RCs, because I certainly don't right now. It's probably something I should do. I don't know, are there other avenues that have worked for this kind of thing? For notifying releases and stuff like that aren't like as visible as a full public release?
My other question would be, is there any reason we wouldn't make a broader, this release candidate is available, test it out if you want to just the general populace?
Yes, Michael laid that out in the issue thread that you had, that apparently people have been giving us feedbacks that we already have too many release announcements, so we probably shouldn't do that.
Right. I guess maybe it'd be one for okay, here's a place you could register to be interested in things like that.
Yeah, if we had something like that, we could tweet something like that. I know, on NodeSource's end, that's mostly me notifying the team.
Right.
The only thing, because of NSolid, we actually are sometimes affected by mass linting changes and stuff, so that can make it a lot more work on our end, which makes it perhaps seem less valuable to do all the time, because it's more overhead than simply running tests, or can be at least.
Right. Yeah, I wonder, just an issue where you could subscribe, and then every time there was a new release candidate, it was posted there. That might be simple and effective, as long as there was people knew that that's what they needed to do.
Yeah, I think personally for me, maybe we need to find out who's using LTS, and who are big organizations that are going to be majorly affected by this. If we find that it's 4 or 5 teams, and then there's a lot of people who are consuming from those teams, and those teams are kind of like I'd use NodeSource as an example, or IBM as an example, or Joyent. Like if we have a handful of teams that are acting as a downstream to consumers using Node, maybe it's a lot more of a personal connection and having like a small group of people that are like, informed when this is happening.
I think one avenue, so if we have a place that we can have like a sign up for like a mailing list or something, anything that like has recurring notifications, we could send out an email to so the security team has a list of people from like huge deployments in one of the secret repos. And that has a list of like, I don't know, emails of a bunch of like contacts for security stuff. So that would there might be stuff in there like we can just get a hold of people. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think that this is. Oh, sorry, you were going to say?
I mean, I agree that like targeting some of the bigger people would be good, but it seems to me, unless there's a reason, if we can do it in a way that doesn't bug the general populace, making it available to anybody, then I guess that has a plus and a minus. We may get issues open that are maybe lower quality, but earlier feedback from anybody doesn't seem like a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
It's almost more likely, if you're a busy company, yeah, you'd like to try this out, but it takes a fair amount of effort sometimes to run all your regression tests, where some individuals may just take it out and try out a few things, right?
Yeah. Although I think the sort of thing that we're trying to find you won't really find in small deployments anyway.
It's possible that, yeah, our regular test suite will cover that off. There might be some edge cases, though, where somebody's doing something funky, and I don't know.
I was just going to say, I think this may be a really great thing that we could potentially defer to Michael and potentially even the Node marketing committee.
Yeah.
To give us, like some recommendations based on, Linux has an LTS system that's been working for a long time, and they probably have some awesome best practices there for handling it.
Right. So I think I'm just writing down we should continue the discussion in the GitHub repo. He's involved there. And does that sound reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So then I guess, Jeremiah, you wanted to add in discussion of your issue?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's super much to discuss on it. It is a patch. So this is the Node Core issue 4007, my refactors timers PR, and it has not been really looked at for whether it's LTS-able or not. It is a patch commit, but there's a certain amount of there's going to be a certain amount of different profile that will apply to internal timers, although that should be positive in virtually any case. Yeah.
So you're saying the function it will be different? Like you'll get different behavior?
No.
No?
You might get a different performance profile slightly, depending on your use case, but it should be positive overall.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone here can go or at least like think about if this is something we can take into LTS.
I think something that we could potentially do would be to make a branch with it backported, run sitgim on that branch, and potentially go out to the same people that we would talk to about LTS and just say, hey, can you smoke test this branch? And if we don't hit any edge cases in the smoke testing, that seems to me like a pretty good thumbs up for moving it over.
You will definitely not notice anything testing in Citrum. These things won't be. There was a thing that was talked about for when LTS was formed that we would also have some amount of stability in like how it runs. I'm not really sure if that's like where the boundaries of that are.
Right, like even performance changes, even positive ones can end up messing up an app. Maybe it's not written correctly and it's got some dependency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's from that aspect is what you're saying is that you don't necessarily want to change things, even if it's good things.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not 100% sure what like the memory profile on this should be. Although timer wrap instances take up virtually no memory anyway, so I don't think there should be any problem with that. I'm just not sure what we want to do with like a refactor like this that is like patchable and doesn't really affect like any API sort of thing.
Yeah. I am up for it. I mean, like the biggest thing that would be a pain in the butt would be, we make these major changes to timers, and we've got, like at least another year and a half on this branch. So everything else that touches that for the next year is going to be kind of nasty. I could imagine, personally though, I don't really feel confident that I can give that a code review and really understand all the implications. But I would imagine Rod and James, if Rod and James both were willing to sign off on it, I'm gung ho.
Both of which have clearly said to me they don't understand the implications of it either. So there would be like one really weird case that would like really break people, and that's if you are for some reason have a C++ add-on that goes and hooks into like the internal timer wrap. But I don't think we in any way support that even for LTS. Like that's literally using C to do whatever you want.
So, I mean, realistically, if we put it into a version, and that version had like a release candidacy of like 1 to 2 weeks, and we made sure, I'd say at least 2 weeks, and we make sure to really let people know, hey, this is a change that we think is going to be fine, but it could cause weirdness, and we really advertise that and make sure people know to test it out, I'd be pretty confident in it after that. And if people are running into weirdness after that, we can work closely with them to fix it. But if we're signaling, that this change is coming and that we're giving them an opportunity to test it, it seems like a pretty fair
Yeah,
thing to
although
do.
I think we need to, if Rod and James both need to have better understanding, we should work that through first.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think there's support to say, we want to avoid the merge conflicts and merge pain. But if there's some concern that it may actually affect people, we should just make sure that, we've got several people who've gone through and convinced themselves it's fine. Well, maybe this one is like, either we can carry it over to, I don't know what the rush is, we could carry it over till next LTS meeting when James and Rod will hopefully be here, or you can try and get the discussion going more in the GitHub item before then.
Well, so it's pretty close to landing in V5. So it's not even in stable yet, so it's not going to land in LTS right now. But there hasn't really been any review of it in terms of LTS, so I was wondering.
I think the other thing too is if we put it into V5 and it lives there without a problem for like a month or two, like that's a pretty good window at which we can tell that, like in my experience, many of the things that we have thought would not be weird that landed in LTS and caused weirdness was because it didn't live in V5 long enough for us to find it. There's been only like one case where like putting it into V4 actually made an edge case more noticeable, and then we ended up fixing it everywhere. But I think that that's also worth considering.
Right, so maybe we should just add that one, add LTS agenda to it, and talk about it again next week when Rod and James are around.
Yeah, I'm good for that.
Sure, I'll add the tag to it.
Okay. I'm just taking that note. Okay, so that's what we had. I think, were there any other agenda items?
Not as far as I know for the moment.
Has anybody heard on terms of the 010 and 012 schedule?
What about it?
I think there was plans to get a 010, 012 out that had the HTTP parser fix.
From the security releases?
Well, something, there was a case that was in the security releases where we actually had something that was fixed in 4.3.1.
Mm-hmm.
And the corresponding one was going to go into 010 and 012.
So that's on James, as far as I know.
Okay. I think you mentioned Rod was doing it, but...
Okay. I'm more than happy to try to help with that, but I have not been putting my fingers into 10 or 12.
Okay. Okay. I was just curious if anybody had an update, but if not, we'll leave it at that. Okay, well, if that's it, then I guess we'll call it closed for this week. Thanks for taking the time to attend, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.